Welcome to another video. And today we've got draft grades. Today is Saturday evening. The NFL draft has concluded. This long awaited process is over. It has been so fun in my first full draft cycle of making videos and posting articles. I've really had a good time. And today I'm going to do the AFC East draft grades and I'm going to go by division and post a video for each division. I think doing one for each team is a bit overkill, and I think doing just one for the whole league is not, it doesn't give each team the proper amount of coverage. Additionally, I'm going to have my notes in front of me. So if you see me looking at this angle, I'm looking at my monitor, looking at my who exactly the list of what the teams took and um, what they needed coming in, the positions they addressed, who was available at the time of the pick, etc. I'm also going to go based on what team picked first. So today we're doing the AFC East uh, draft grades, and we're going to start with the New England Patriots. Now, there's a lot of teams that you could look at and just say, well, they need everything. And the Patriots were certainly one of them. You could say they need everything except for, I guess, quarterback, and that's about it. And they go out and they get somebody to protect Drake May's blindside, Will Campbell. Now, a lot of people thought that Will Campbell would go to the Patriots, and then as the days kind of got closer, they thought, okay, maybe that's a smoke screen. Nope, that was the pick. And I think it's the right one. Will Campbell is a star. He's just because he's got 32 or 33-inch arms doesn't mean he's not good. Watch him play the position. He's very good. And the Patriots need all the offensive line help they can get. That was, without a doubt, the number one position group they needed to address. It didn't matter the position, they just needed to get a bunch. And to get the top left tackle in the class is phenomenal. They took him over guys like Armand Membu, Josh Connerly, Kelvin Banks Jr., to name a few. Will Campbell's the guy. I think there's guys who have others in front of Will Campbell. I had Kelvin Banks very close to Will Campbell, but Will Campbell was still my guy. He's just very. I did the whole film breakdown. He fits the team. Now, what were other needs? They need trenches, right? They need trenches and they need offensive skill players. So they need D line, O line, and then wide receiver, running back. I don't think they desperately need a tight end, but eventually they're going to need to replace Hunter Henry. So with their second round pick, a bit surprising to me, and this is a pick that I don't necessarily love because I've never been too high on the player. They went with Ohio State running back TreVeyon Henderson. TreVeyon Henderson brings a nice lightning to Ramondre Stevenson's thunder, and I don't even know if Ramondre Stevenson is going to get any type of burn anymore. His days in New England might be coming to an end. But what I do know about TreVeyon Henderson is that he is all about speed. He's got great contact balance, and that is something that a running back is going to need against behind a rebuilding offensive line. Then in the third round, they made one of my favorite picks of the entire draft, getting Washington State wide receiver Kyle Williams. In my opinion, Kyle Williams, I had a second round grade on him, mid second round grade, and they got him in round 3, pick 5. He brings speed, he brings yak. So you're going to have guys like Kendrick Bourne who don't have the most advanced route tree, but then you have Pop Douglas in the slot who provides a lot of that yak potential, those screenplays. And then you get another dynamic weapon in Kyle Williams to kind of offset that. He can stretch the defense vertically. He can hurt the defense in all 3 areas of the field. He doesn't have immense size, and that is something they're missing on the boundary. Stefon Diggs is that route runner connoisseur, kind of savvy guy. I don't know if he's going to be ready week 1, but those are the 4 wide receivers I'm really looking at. I don't know that Jalen Polk or Javon Baker really make any impact on the team next year. I'm not going to bet money on it, but I could easily see Williams having like a 700-yard season easily. I mean, with this team, I think they're going to be pretty invested in throwing the ball, and I think Kyle Williams could be a mainstay in New England for a while. Then in the back half of the third round, the Patriots took the most athletic lineman in the class. I believe he had the fastest 40 either in history or this year. He's a fast guy. The center out of Georgia, Jared Wilson. I really like Jared Wilson. He can get out in space, he can move. He's going to be a day one starter. And just like that, their offensive line goes from horrible to very steadily improving. Jared Wilson, I think, is a better run blocker than he is pass protector just because of his ability to get out in space and find his landmarks. But that is not to say that he can't anchor himself in pass protection and really keep Drake May's front side clean. Then I think in a somewhat odd selection, in my opinion, up until this point, we're in the fourth round now. They haven't taken a defensive lineman in which they desperately need. We don't know the status of their D line really. They don't really have edge pressure. And then you've got, I mean, is Christian Barmore going to be ready with his, we don't know his situation. So I expected them to go defensive tackle, and instead they went Craig Woodson, the safety out of California. Woodson ran a 4.45 40 at the combine. He had a 36-inch vertical, 10-foot 7-inch broad jump. So he's an athletic player, and they're kind of the fourth round and beyond. I think Daniel Jeremiah said it best. It's just all about you draft on either traits or on-field production, one or the other. You're never going to get a perfect player. And Craig Woodson, I think, just has traits. And then the Patriots, in with their last pick in the back of the fourth round and the start of the fifth round, they draft two guys who I had in my top 125, I believe, in Joshua Farmer, the defensive tackle from Florida State, and Braden Swinson, the edge from LSU. Farmer's got that really nice pop as a pass rusher from the interior, a rare pass rusher from the interior in terms of how much production he gets. And then Braden Swinson, I think, has the measurables, and he had amazing production his last year at LSU. I think he would have been a lot higher of a pick if he had done it in multiple seasons. But just that one season of production, I think teams were a bit skeptical. And then real quickly, I'll just round out the rest of their picks. At the top of the sixth round, they took Andres Borregales, the kicker from Miami. Then they took Marcus Bryant, the left tackle from Missouri. They took a long snapper from Vanderbilt, Julian Ashby, and they took Kobe Minor, a defensive back out of Memphis. I'm not going to pretend that I know players that I don't know. I don't know Julian Ashby or Andres Borregales. So, and I haven't watched much on Kobe Minor, just because of the nature of the draft. None of the players that I scouted heavily were on the Memphis defense, including Minor. But I had seen a bit of Marcus Bryant due to Armand Membu and Luther Burden tapes. And I even looked a bit into Brady Cook. Marcus Bryant, again, another guy that you're just kind of betting on traits. He's 6'7", 320 pounds. So you're saying that is a ginormous individual. He can probably do something. So they're going to get him in. A lot of teams take swings at offensive tackles in the back of drafts to maybe take a swing on practice squad players or swing tackles, and the diamond in the roughs that become starters in the league. Overall, I mean, I unfortunately as a Bills fan, I love this draft. The only pick I disagree with is the Travion Henderson pick and maybe the Craig Woodson pick, just because I think the front four on the defense was a more pressing issue than safety. I would have preferred Caleb Johnson being picked as their running back, and as it turns out, they could have got him in the third round. But Travion Henderson brings a certain firepower to an offense that I think will suit them very well. So overall, Patriots did a very good job. I give them a B plus. Next up, we have the New York Jets, and boy oh boy, I did not like this class one bit. I don't know. So Armand Membu, the offensive tackle from Missouri, went seventh. He was not a top 5 tackle for me. And on top of that, he's a right tackle. And I don't even know that he is a right tackle because I think he could very well move to guard at some point. He's a big body with athleticism, but he doesn't have the measurables I guess, that you would like to see. And I think most people expect a move to guard at some point. Very Elijah Vera Tucker-esque, and that was actually my player comp for him. Turns out he's playing on the same team as him. So the Giants have a type, and they went after it. I would have gone Kelvin Banks. I know people think that, or some people think that he is a guard. I don't. I think that was a bit of a fumble of a pick. Then in the second round, they went Mason Taylor. That was bizarre. I'm not in NFL scouting circles, but my general understanding was that Mason Taylor at the very earliest was going mid round 3. I did not expect him to go high round 2 at all. He never had the production, and that's okay. Tight ends in college typically don't, especially when they're going to those premier programs that have premier wide receivers. Tight ends typically don't have production that is noticeable. It's more so just about what they did with their opportunities. Mason Taylor did amazing in the 3 years that he was at LSU. I just think I would have probably taken Harold Fannin over him, Elijah Arroyo, and Terrence Ferguson. Then in the third round, they went Azarie Thomas. I think for the spot it was, I think it's fine value. Think I had Azarie Thomas around my 70th player in the class, just because he was a man corner who doesn't have man athleticism. He doesn't have speed. He doesn't have that click and close ability, the ability to mirror and match. He's very, very zone. He just screams zone cornerback, but he's only played man at Florida State. So it's kind of this um, who are you sort of thing. It's an identity crisis almost. With that being said, Azarie Thomas could come into the NFL, go into a zone heavy scheme, and thrive. Now, that's also to say there's no NFL team that is only going to run man. Teams, the most man heavy teams are probably like 60 to 70% man, and then, 30 to 40% zone. So he's going to have his opportunities in both, but I think he is a zone corner. I think those speedy receivers, those Kyle Williams receivers, Khalil Shakir's, Jalen Waddle, those are all receivers that are going to give him trouble within his own division. And then a baffling pick, a guy that I think probably should have gone undrafted. The only reason he got drafted is because of his combine. Arian Smith, the wide receiver from Georgia, um, he couldn't catch a football to save his life, and the wide receiver position is there to catch footballs. He just can't do it. He had 10 drops in 2024, and they were concerning drops. Just a level of inconsistency that is pretty rare. Pretty baffling to draft him. Then they go and draft safety out of Alabama, Malachi Moore. I like this. Moore's been a proven leader. He had that one tantrum incident against Vanderbilt, so that's iffy, but I'm not gonna not draft a guy because he got upset about losing. And then to round out the draft, they went Francisco Mauigoa out of Miami. Didn't watch much on him. And then edge Tyler Barron out of Miami. I actually originally went before the season started. Tyler Barron was in my top 150, and he got booted out as the season progressed. So that was how they rounded out the draft. Originally, right as the draft ended, I gave them a D plus. I'm gonna move them to a C minus because I think guys like Mason Taylor and Azarie Thomas, while they aren't the guys at that position that I would have gone with, I think they can be productive. And then a guy like Malachi Moore, I can actually see becoming a starter over time. And who knows? Maybe I'm wrong about Armand Membu, but I really just don't think that he's going to be that top 10 pick kind of guy. Then we had the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins, a little similar to the Patriots in terms of their top needs, trenches. They are in the middle of what they would like to call a retool, and what I would like to say is the start of a full-on rebuild. I don't think Tua Tagovailoa is the level of quarterback that can prevent a retool from becoming a rebuild. I think they just need to kind of scrap this and start fresh. that we're probably looking at the last season of Tyreek Hill in Miami. We could be looking at the last season of Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel in Miami. They said goodbye to Javon Holland, Teron Armstead, Raheem Mostert, a lot of core guys that made the Dolphins who they were in this successful run are no longer there. Now, I still think their offense has a high floor because they have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Tyreek Hill took a step back last year, but that was mostly because of injuries. When he was on the field, I thought he was good, and when Tua Tagovailoa was throwing in the ball, not somebody else, he was good. Jalen Waddle as well, he battled injuries. If he's healthy, he's good. So they need to keep Tua Tagovailoa clean. He has to get the ball out so quick because he faces so much pressure. And unfortunately, Campbell, Membu, and Banks all went by the time they were picking at 13. I think 13 is a bit early to draft a guy like Connerly or even Zabel, in my opinion. So they went with the defensive trenches and they went with Kenneth Grant, who I do think it was early for Grant, but if they're not going to trade back, you might as well get your guy. And I think Kenneth Grant is very, very good, and he's very big. And as a Bills fan, I'm not excited to have to play him 2 times a year. Grant, I think, throughout the season didn't get the love that Mason Graham got, and I think he should have. Grant is just as good of a playmaker. He's an insane pass rusher for a one tech, and he's an absolute space eater. He can just collect blocks and clean. It just keeps his linebackers clean, allows them to make tackles in the run game, and he diagnoses plays really well. He's a total difference maker. In the second round, they went with Arizona offensive tackle Jonas Savaiinaea. Um, he's another one of those tackles that is gonna play guard in the NFL. Just doesn't have the measurables for the tackle position. I think honestly, the fact that he will likely play guard, but has that tackle experience makes him so valuable as a guy who can play pretty much anywhere for the Dolphins, a team that just needs offensive linemen. I mean, he in 2024, he nearly perfectly split time between right tackle and left tackle. So he has proven to be able to do both. After that pick, though, I really didn't like any of the Dolphins' picks. They took defensive tackle Jordan Phillips out of Maryland. Uh, I'm not sold on Jordan Phillips. I didn't even make a film breakdown on him. I think he should have stayed at Maryland one more year, to be quite honest with you. He's a bit shorter in terms of length. He has the weight, but I don't think he has the movement skills. So if the Dolphins are, I'm assuming, planning to make him a backup, he would be a backup to Kenneth Grant. And if Jordan Phillips pans out and becomes, he takes advantage of his opportunity, then they're just going to have two one techs. I don't know. I would have gone elsewhere, but they need trenches, so I understand addressing the position. Then they went Jason Marshall Jr., the cornerback out of Florida, a guy who I actually expected to go in last year's draft. Stayed one more year, went this year. I don't mind the pick. Again, in these rounds, it's all about just taking flyers. He has short arms. He's lighter, not ideal height, so I don't love it. I'm not gonna sign my seal of approval on it. And then Ollie Gordon, I'm perfectly fine with taking a flyer on a guy like this. They have Devon Achane, who is notoriously light, smaller. Um, that lightning aspect, that's what he brings to a team. Ollie Gordon's the exact opposite, and he had little to no production in 2024, but he won the Doak Walker Award in 2023. So if you can get even half of what you got in 2023, this is a great thunder to Devon Achane's Lightning. And then Quinn Ewers, I don't really know why they took Quinn Ewers. Um, I can't think of a reason. I understand needing a backup. Um, so, okay. And then Zeke Biggers, the defensive tackle out of Georgia. Whatever. I didn't really watch anything on him. So, overall, I think the first pick was good. They did what they could with what was available. The second pick addressed positional need, I probably would have gone with a guy that would play tackle. I understand there was a run on tackles early. I still would have gone with a tackle. And then from there on, I didn't like any of the picks. So what do I give them? I'll give them a C minus two. Just because you're not going to like a lot of the late picks because they're not going to be starters. So why would you like them? Or 90% of the time, they're not going to be starters. But I would like to see you can address position and then you can address position with the right guys, and I don't think they address position with the right guys. Last team I got for you is the Buffalo Bills. Now, the Buffalo Bills defense for about 3 years now has built a tradition of letting down Josh Allen in the biggest games. Josh Allen consistently gets them to where they need to be, and right when they face a team of similar caliber, the defense just has that signature moment that lets them down. So what do? They basically just draft defense. Let's take a look. So coming into the draft, I thought the Bills needed cornerback was my number one. I really wanted a corner because they are very clearly saying goodbye to uh, Rasul Douglas, and other than that, they signed Trey White and Dane Jackson. So they needed to spend an early pick on corner. Additionally, they needed defensive tackle. The only way I didn't want them to take defensive tackle was if Walter Nolan or Kenneth Grant were available. Both of them went over 10 picks before the Bills were up, so that wasn't an option. Now, when the Bills were on the clock, it was Trey Amos or Maxwell Harrison, as far as I was concerned. Those were the two players that I think needed to go. Amos, I guess, has back concerns, and Hairston had the allegations from when he was a freshman at Kentucky. I guess those have been washed away because Brandon Bean said they did their research, and I know for a fact they wouldn't have spent a first round pick on a guy that they weren't sure was free of any wrongdoing. So they draft Hairston, who I think signals a shift from a zone heavy Sean McDermott defense to more man coverage because of how fast he is. Maxwell Hairston ran a 4.240. He is a very fast player. He weighed in at the combine at like 183, but says he's 192 now, which is great. So if he can play with that same speed with that added mass, he could be very valuable. He is an aggressive ball hawk. In zone, he does well to trigger and squeeze routes to make plays, and in man, he has that mirror match ability to stay stride for stride with receivers. In the second round, they went defensive tackle. They went TJ Sanders. Right here was where I started to get really frustrated because I did want Amos in the first round, but I understood if the back was a serious issue going with Max Hairston. In the second round, um, guys like Mike Green, Donovan Ezraku, and TJ Sanders were on the board. I think Donovan Ezraku and Mike Green are top 15 talents in this draft. I think Mike Green, we all know why he didn't go in the first round or early in the second. I don't know why Donovan Ezraku didn't, and I think he was a talent that should not have been passed up on. Instead, they go with trenches on the interior. They go with TJ Sanders, who I wasn't really sold on when I watched his tape. He's definitely a three tech. He's not anywhere close to a one tech, which I think is the one thing they need. I don't think he can play next to Ed Oliver. I do think that on obvious passing downs he can. So if it's 3rd and 20, 3rd and 15, 3rd and 10, I think you can put TJ Sanders and Ed Oliver on the middle together, and I think they could wreak some havoc. But that is the most I can see for Sanders. I mean he's not going to take Ed Oliver's spot. Ed Oliver just got a huge contract extension, so at the most he's in there on obvious passing downs and he's subbing in for Ed Oliver. So I don't think he's going to have a largely maximized role. And then in the third round, at pick 8, pick 72, this is where I was like, okay, we've gotten two defensive picks. I think they got to get Josh Allen some help. They are not with Amari Cooper anymore, so it's Keon Coleman, it's Khalil Shakir, and I thought, okay, this is where we get Jalen Royals, who I had as my number 5 wide receiver in the class, and he was still on the board in round 3. And instead, they went with Landon Jackson, another guy who I wasn't really sold with. I believe I did have a round 3 grade on him, so it's not like I thought this was a reach or anything. I just thought that there was a much higher value on the board, and I understand needing to shore up the defense, but Josh Allen needs to be throwing to people. Then they went with one of the most disappointing picks, in my opinion. They just said, oh, this guy is huge. He must be a good one tech. And they drafted Deion Walker out of Kentucky, 6'7", 3 million pounds. Deion Walker plays with horrible pad level. He has a minimal motor. He has no pass rushing upside. I just don't really understand. I don't even think the problem with Deion Walker is, height and weight is only valuable if you utilize it, and I don't really think he maximizes it, or at least, I understand 2023 was better than 2024 for Walker, but he really didn't last year. And then so I didn't like that pick at all. And then they ended rounds 5 through 7 with cornerback Jordan Hancock out of Ohio State, tight end Jackson Hawes out of Georgia Tech. That is a practice squad player. He will never see the active roster. I feel like that's a waste of a pick. Uh, Cornerback Dorian Strong out of Virginia Tech. I actually think that's good value for the spot they picked him at. I did a film breakdown on him on this channel. I think he could potentially be an active roster player. At the very least, he is an inactive rostered player. And then Chase Lunt, the offensive tackle out of Connecticut. Brandon Beane's always good for at least one offensive tackle pick in the draft, especially ones in the late rounds to try to see if they're practice squad or swing tackle kind of players. And then they rounded out the draft with wide receiver Caden Prather out of Maryland, a guy who I expected to go in 2024, returned to school, and got himself drafted. So the Bills did good to address needs. I just really don't like the guys that they use to address them. For that reason, I'm giving them a C. So not the best, not the worst, just meh. So to review, I think the Patriots had the best draft, not just because, they had a higher pick, so that means they did better, but I like how they picked as the draft went on. I give them a B plus. I give the Bills a C for addressing positional needs with the wrong players, and then I give the Dolphins and the Jets a C minus. I just think that they made. I think the Dolphins had a solid first pick. They had an okay second pick, and after that, I thought it was pretty buns. And then the Jets, I think, just made some head scratching decisions. So those are my draft grades for the AFC East. If you don't like it, too damn bad. I appreciate you watching. I hope you really enjoyed the draft process this year. If you enjoyed any of my videos throughout the pre-draft process, I just want to say thank you. It was so fun to be able to do that every day. It was something to work towards and I guess grind for, and it was very fun. So I appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next. I'm about to make another one, so I'll see you. I'll see you in a few minutes.